Hello and welcome back. This is our final session of the day. How exciting is this? What a blessing and such fun. This virtual writers conference has been. Write your book step by step. And you know what? We're trying something new with some of our favorite colleagues and friends in the Christian communicator industry. We are going to do a fun panel with some marketing experts. And so we're going to have all kinds of conversations around marketing. So this is going to be really exciting. I can't wait to hear what some of your questions are. And so let's talk about that. This is going to be Q&A, right? So what we want you to do is make sure that you write your best. What are your most burning marketing questions? You know, we want to stick to this conversation around book marketing. However, marketing is marketing. And often, even when we're marketing our books, we're marketing our brands, we're marketing ourselves, we're marketing our message. So, you know, we don't want to get too left field, but really, it doesn't have to just be about books. All right. So we want you to put those marketing questions that you have in the Ask a Question section. Make sure that you do not put it in the chat because the chat is busy and we won't be able to see it. One more piece of housekeeping before we get started. As this is our last session of the day, replays will be available right here within Crowdcast until 8 p.m. tomorrow, which is Friday. Okay, so maybe you're watching this on replay, 8 p.m. Friday, all right, which is November 5th. And after that, they're going to go away and they're only going to be accessible to those that have the All Access Pass. So if you haven't grabbed that and you would like to, that is still available. All right, so without further ado, I want each of our lovely ladies to introduce themselves. And we're going to start with Valerie, go over to Tiffany, then Courtney, and then Becky, because that's how I see them on the screen. All right, take it away, ladies.
Hi, Jenny. Thank you so much, first of all, for this opportunity. I love Flourish Writers. You guys have had me here several times. And every time you invite me, I'm coming back. So thank you for the opportunity. I am Valerie J. Lewis Coleman. My company is Pen of the Writer, based off of Judges 5:14. So if you forget the name, remember Judges 5:14, penofthewriter.com. And what I do is serve professional speakers and experts to magnify and monetize their message by publishing quality books. So my whole focus is making sure that you put in all the work to not just write the book, but publish it in excellence and position you to get paid speaking engagements, media attention, and of course, book sales. That's what I do, and I love doing it.
I love it.
Oh my goodness, how do I follow that?
No.
Thank you, Jenny, for having me here. I'm excited to be a part of this fun Flourish Writers panel. My name is Tiffany Jo Baker, and I am from Texas, the good old state of Texas. And I am a 3-time surrogate, a speaker, and a strategizer. And so what I've done with babies for families who are dealing with infertility and birthing babies, I also help people birth their book babies. And that's part of how God uses me in the kingdom, is as some are hands, some are feet, and God uses me as a womb, WOMB, to be a dream carrier and help others fulfill the God dreams that God has put on their heart. And so my sweet spots are really helping to uplift the soul and success of women who are walking out their why at home and online. And I primarily do that with Christian communicators through podcasting, especially becoming the best podcast guest ever, so that you can do that in order to sell your books and spread your message. And also, I love doing strategy sessions with solopreneurs who really want the plan, the accountability, the to-dos, and then you can go and run with it. Excited to be here.
Yes. Awesome. Now, how am I going to follow all of that? I just want to say that. Oh my gosh, Jesus help me. Thank you so much, Jenny and Mindy, for having us on here. I am just super pumped and excited to be here. I'm Courtney Richard. My ministry is Inside Out with Courtney. I'm a blogger, author, speaker, and mentor. I also have a PR and marketing agency, which is called Inside Out Media Group, and basically just help equipping women to do what they're called to do, writing books and starting their businesses, their ministries, their brands, but helping you to get that message out there as far and wide as the Lord wants us to get it out there. So that is what I do. And again, I'm super pumped to be here.
So fun. Jenny, thank you for having me. Welcome to everybody who's here. My name is Becky Kopitsky. I love Flourish Writers. I love communicating with all of you whose passion is to get your book into the world, because that's where I was when I was, about 10 years ago, hadn't written a book yet, wanted to, didn't know what steps to take. So grateful the Lord has brought me on a journey to the point where now I can encourage others to do the same. I actually am a traditionally published author with a traditional agent, so I come from that perspective, but I also recognize because of that, how it is not necessarily a money-making business to be in the traditional publishing space. So I have come up with other ways to generate revenue for my ministry, for my business, and that's what I am passionate about imparting to others. I am one of the 4 founding partners of an organization called Ministry to Business, and we are all about helping Christian writers and speakers and podcasters monetize the work that they already do in order to create this floor of sustainable income so that you do not become burnt out by the work that God has called you to do. When you have that income to support what you're doing, you're able to continue to do it well, to do it in a way that honors God and your family and doesn't burn you out, so that you can keep serving your audience. And my special sweet spot is in sales funnels. I love digital products and sales funnels to generate a floor of recurring income using the writing skills that God gave you. I'm so passionate about that topic. So thank you again, Jenny, for having me here. I'm looking forward to a great discussion with all these dynamite ladies.
It is going to be a great discussion. And there's already some excellent questions coming in. I'm so impressed. But I have a question as a few more come in. And this question is actually going to be for Courtney and Tiffany. What would you tell, something that you learned in marketing your message, marketing your books, that you look back and you're like, oh, I wish I would have known that, right? I wish I would have had a mentor or someone tell me that. And not necessarily maybe that you learned it the hard way, but what is something that you now know, right, that you wish you would have known when you were in the early stages of marketing your message, marketing your brand, marketing your book? So if you want to start, Tiffany.
Okay, 2 things come to mind. The first thing is I wish I would have known that I should have been building my brand as hard as I was trying to write my book. So when you're on this, some of us have been writing for 10 years, some of us have been writing for 6 months, but just as you're putting in as much heart, money, time into actually writing the book, be doing the same to be building your brand and getting out there as you're writing. So I think that was number 1. Number 2 is that book launches are a marathon long game sport. It's not a short, like you think launch and I'm done. It's not. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's a long game. So it's so many of the clients I work with and myself put so much time and energy into those 3, 4, 6 months and are completely burned out and then have nothing left to give for the long haul. So knowing that it's a long game, there is a launch, there's different phases. And so I think those are the top 2 things.
That's great. I agree, definitely, 100%. The other part I would say is don't put the pressure on yourself when you do have a book that's coming out, meaning when you're putting out all the promos and marketing and things like that, don't tell anyone until it's ready. I like to say until you actually have books in hand where you can actually say, hey, here's my book, grab it, here's pre-sales, everything that's happening. Because here's the thing, when you start marketing and when you put a date on it, everybody's waiting on it. Now they're looking for it. And so if you have any delays, whether that's self-publishing or even traditional publishing, because right now there's books on boats right now that's waiting and there are launches, I would just kind of hold back a little bit. Don't say, okay, it's coming out until you actually have those books, because you can have some shipping issues. And so that would be the thing that I learned. I was like, oh my gosh. And I had to let people know it's coming. It was coming out in September, but now it's coming out in October. So nobody knows until you tell them that it's coming. So that's what I would say for self-publishing for sure.
That's good advice. Yes. And actually we have a good friend that she recently, she's traditionally publishing and she's in that where everything's backed up. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, right.
This question that came in, I was going to ask another question, but this one's perfect for Valerie and Becky. All right. I want both of you to answer. Valerie, you can start. Denise asked, what are 3 low cost but effective ways to promote and market a book? Great question.
Okay. I heard that adjective, low cost. That's important.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
this business, because book writing and publishing is a business, can be very expensive if you don't have strategies in place. I'm going to skip the social media only because I think everybody's probably aware of social media, knows to use it. I don't recommend necessarily the ads unless you're proficient in keywords and ad searching. So social media is definitely a one, but beyond social media, one of the low cost effective ways to market your book is ask other people to help you. What I mean by that is developing a street team. So you've got these fans, friends, and followers who you can do no wrong by. Ask those people to share your information. Invite other people to your launch, to reshare your emails, to even distribute postcards. So you can get other people to speak on your behalf is one of the most powerful tools because it's that third-party endorsement. Of course, you're going to say you got the best book ever, but when somebody else says you got the best book ever, it goes a lot further. So solicit help from others, those fans, friends, and followers who are willing to help expand your message. And that's free. You might want to give them a complimentary book or something. Don't just go free all the way free. Another thing that if you're proficient at is writing media releases, and then distributing those can get you a lot of attention. I've gotten myself and my clients full page, front cover, above the crease, full color write-ups in newspapers and magazines. I've gotten TV interviews based off of writing a wonderful press release or media release and then getting it to the right channels. That is just like writing a book, that is an art. So you don't just want to put something out there unless you've really studied it and understand what you're doing, and then reaching the right media people. So those are the two free. And then the third one I would say is do interviews. There's a site called helpareporterout.com. I think it's Hiro, helpareporter.com. You can go there. You have to have a great pitch, but create a wonderful pitch. And then what it will do, you select the criteria that most interest you, and it will give you results of reporters, journalists, people who are looking for experts. And if you identify the specific subject matter, you'll get bombarded, actually overwhelmed with opportunities to magnify your message. So helpareporter.com, get other people to speak for you. And what was the other? Oh, and a media release.
I'm going to suggest just one additional, and this piggybacks on something Tiffany said, which is leverage your email list. If you have been smart and you've been building an email list all along, leverage that list. These are people who are already your biggest fans. They're waiting on your next material. And one way that I love to promote a book is by offering that first chapter for free. You get them hooked on the content, and it's essentially giving them what we like to call a ministry to business. We call it a whiff of the popcorn, and then they have to pay for the whole bag. So you give them that first chapter for free. You let them have access to it, or you provide it. Again, if we're talking about social media, there are all sorts of good and bad ways that you can be using social media to promote a book. But in reaching out to other people, other partners, other bloggers to share your content, like Valerie had said, give them something to share outright. So a link where they can download the first chapter of your book or some sort of a supplemental material, we call these a lead magnet, related to your book. And in order to get it, they have to sign up for your email list. So you're growing your email list and marketing your book at the same time in a method that doesn't cost you anything other than maybe the time it takes to create a small lead magnet that's going to be of interest to that audience. And then you have your partners share that information so that they have something tangible they can offer to their audience, which makes them even more likely to share to their audience because they can provide something of free and great value to them as well. And everybody wins in that process.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yes. I would love, can I say something here about the email list? Because I see them talking about the email list. That is so good, Becky, and so true. Those freebies are like king right now. I mean, a lot of people, that is how you grow your email list. Another thing that, is a great way of how you can grow your email list is freebie as far as like a training, like maybe a 3 or a 5 point talk that you do and give something where people can kind of get to know you as an author. So when your book does come out, whether it's traditional or self-published, people are familiar with you. And so they've gotten to know you. But I do want to tell you that is so big for traditionally published authors to have that email list, to start building that ahead of time. I know all about that right now. I'm in the run for it right now. And that is something that they definitely want. So do all of the things. Sometimes you have to have about 5 things going in order to build that list, but that is huge. But here's the thing, why? It's not just for publishing, but it's also to bring your audience closer to you. So when you have talks, when you are speaking somewhere, where you are going to be on a podcast, or you have something that you want to offer, you want to sell a course or things like that, then you already have a warm audience that's ready to receive that content. And so you just bring them in a little bit closer. So it's not just for the publishing house, but it's also when you're selling other products and resources as well.
Yes. And can I just point out that that email list is not just for you. It is not for you as the writer.
Exactly.
It is for the people that you're serving. Your email list is your tribe. It's your people.
Yes.
These are the people that you're feeding into. Why are you a writer in the faith-based space? Because you want to serve people. You want to share the gospel with them. These are your people, and they're primed and ready to hear from you. And so it is one of the best ways. An email list is one of the best ways you can serve your people. And in return, they will buy your book. So you are serving them, and in return, they will serve you. But we've got to keep that first and foremost in our minds, that this is about service to these people. It is definitely a business. It should be about growing your reach, marketing smart, and making sure that you are generating an income. But why? Always to serve people.
Exactly.
Love it. All right. I have a question for Courtney. I think this one will be great. Rebecca asked, how can I be a good marketer when I don't have great social media skills? I'm old school. I was a little overwhelmed by the fact that blogs and Facebook are needed in order to gain an audience. Should I hire someone to help with the marketing piece?
Yes, I will tell you that, because if you don't know how to do it, there's social media is where it's happening. Honestly, I got to tell you, Facebook itself, there are some people that are getting off, but just recently, just a couple of days ago, I looked at the stats and there's still 2.something billion people on Facebook. So a lot of people are there, as well as Instagram. And so if you're not familiar with how all this stuff is happening on social media, then I definitely encourage you to hire a marketing or a social media strategist that can sit down with you and just kind of work out a campaign for you. And then that way you'll have some of it out there, because one of the things that I want to tell you with marketing is being visible. It's something called visibility marketing. And so that's how not only are your books going to be sold, but also how speaking opportunities happen, how podcast interviews happen. Because podcasts, I do want to say here real quick, maybe say, for instance, you don't want to do all that, right? Jump on some podcasts and talk about your story, talk about your book, because that's like a new speaking platform. And at the end of the podcast, a lot of times they ask, how can people get your book? And so you can also talk about different chapters and things like that in the book as well. So keep in mind that there are other ways that you can do it. And podcasting, my sister, I think would be a great way to get on there to talk about your message.
I love it. Valerie, I know that you are really an expert and have a lot of expertise in publishing and marketing children's books, because we've had you do a few sessions for us. And I wonder, is that industry a little different for those? I'm sure we have writers watching that are in the children's book space. Can you talk a little bit about marketing through social media or some other channels for a children's book?
Absolutely. So yes, children's books, I have published over 140 authors. And I will say that only having published 2 children's books, one being my own, I learned very quickly that the process for marketing is much different. One of the things that you need to consider when you're writing children's books is you have to be very specific on the age of the children. It's not enough to say adult. So if you're writing early readers, has a different flow, different text to illustration ratio, word count is very different than a chapter book for middle-aged students. Still considered a children's book, but they're middle-aged kids. If you have a book that is going to be read to children from 0 to 2, you're going to have fewer words, shorter sentences, and less complex character movement. And so all of that plays into the marketing. Another thing I encourage my clients to do is look at the readability index of your book. Even though you say you've written your book for maybe 3-year-olds, when you plug it into the readability index, you may find very well that your book is geared towards children who are 10 years old, because of the syllables, because of the word count, because of the complexity of sentence structure. So that is one of the things you want to do in the beginning phases. Don't publish your book, say it's for 3-year-olds, and then people tell you, no, I need to get this to my 10th grader. Be very clear about that. The other thing that is very different for me when it comes to marketing children's books is I spent more time getting to applying and entering awards and contests, that gave me more leverage and credibility and exposure to new audiences. So as a result, my children's book, Things I Can Be When I See Me, which is based off of conversations with my grandbabies, the things I can be when I see me. Yes. As a result, it's won numerous awards for its illustrations, for the message. It has activities in the book, which is a different marketing strategy to incorporate interactive activities for kids in the book, especially if you're dealing with early readers or younger children. So I've got questions in there. I've got resources. I've got puzzles. Those type of things make the children feel more engaged and connected. And I would say the biggest thing about children's books that's different than traditional books is the illustrations. So you have to be very clear about the style of your images, the number of your illustrations, the color content. And you have to work with the illustrator who understands, do I use RGB or do I use CMYK? Do you want full, quarter, or half illustrations? Do you want your characters realistic, semi-real, or do you want cartoon? You have to be very clear on all of those dynamics, because all of that, especially in children's picture books, the illustrations have to convey the story as well as your words.
That is some good advice.
Thank you,
Valerie. I have a question for Tiffany, and then whoever feels led to jump in after Tiffany. But Kathy asked, everyone says to offer a freebie. We've just been talking about it, right? Or a lead magnet in order to grow your email list. In my experience, all I've grown is an audience of people who take the freebie and unsubscribe. Any thoughts on this?
Well, the first thought is yes, that will definitely happen. There's a lot of people out there who are wanting the freebies. But the thing is why people stick around is because you have hit their niche, you have hit their pain point, and you continue to give value. So if you are somebody who just has that opt-in out there and then aren't offering ongoing connections and value, it's going to be really easy for them to hit that unsubscribe button. But at the end of the day, if people are unsubscribing, that's okay, because those aren't your people. And the more people you have on your list, the more you're paying for that email list. So more important than how many people you have on your list really is how much are they connected to your niche? How much are they really your people? And how engaged are they? So I wouldn't, every time I send an email out, I get unsubscribes. It happens, but I also get subscribes that week as well. So it's a give and take. So the main thing is to make sure that your opt-ins are really hitting the real niche of your people, of the value you're going to continue to give. And if you have a few different angles to what you're offering, that's when you start doing tags in your email list. That's when you have an opt-in that really hits maybe soul care, and then you might have an opt-in that hits the self-care part. But we can get super technical on all that. But I think the main thing is unsubscribes are okay, but to keep them engaged is to continue to add value and really hit their pain points and make sure that they're your people.
Yes. Can I tag on to that, Jenny? Because I have a lot of thoughts on this. I actually warn people against I warn people against the freebie seekers. If you are looking to make an income from your business, then eventually you need to make sure that your email list is filled with people who are vetted buyers. And there are ways to do that with the right opt-in or the right lead magnet that is closely tied. It's a taste of an entry point to your book or to your next product. That's very important because you are, like Tiffany said, you're capturing them with the same solution that you're able to deliver in your product. It's just more involved when they reach your product, whether it's your book or anything else. And so it is important not to just be giving away freebies to get a vanity list full of email subscribers, but you've got to really be delivering who you are and what you solve in your freebies so that you can continue to offer value-added content that they may be willing to pay for. But those people who unsubscribe, let them go, because it's just a part of the deal. They're not going to be your people, and you don't want them watering down your list. So make sure that if you are using a lead magnet, and in many cases, I don't even use a lead magnet anymore. I go straight to the sale because then I know that my email list is filled with vetted buyers. But there are effective ways to use a lead magnet to get those vetted buyers. But make sure that what you're offering in the opt-in is so closely tied to what you're about to sell next that it's a natural progression for the subscriber.
I know Valerie.
I was going to say, like I think Tiffany also said, just because they leave doesn't mean it's a bad thing. However, if
Yeah.
you have a mass exodus, you might want to consider modifying your lead magnet, because maybe your audience is not receiving the message as you want to convey it. So it may be an opportunity to plan, do check, reevaluate it, and then make some adjustments if necessary.
Yes,
I agree with that. I would say one other thing too is don't worry about those unsubscribers. Don't worry about them. And the reason why I say that is because when someone unsubscribes, there's another subscriber coming. And so I just want to say that be encouraged, ladies, because let me tell you some, and guys who are on, because there'll be someone else. And just like Becky was saying, your people are your people. Your tribe is your tribe. And so God is going to send more people your way to receive your content. So a lot of times I like to say, don't get caught up in that, because let me tell you something. I think the hard thing is when you see somebody you know and they unsubscribe, you're like, what? How did you do that? But, you have to let that go and say, that's okay. Her life got busy. I get it. I understand. And sometimes people are cleaning out their email. So don't take it personal because they're just cleaning up stuff. But just keep going. Keep putting your content out, refresh it, maybe add another freebie to it. If you want, just kind of keep it fresh. But one of the things I'll also tell you is to be consistent. Stay consistent with your audience. Like my blog comes out Monday, 7:30 a.m. My audience knows they're trained to receive that. I train my audience to come back for more. But one of the things is to stay consistent, because if you're not consistent and they gave you the email, their name and their email, they're looking for your content. So stay consistent in that. But don't worry about those unsubscribers. More are coming.
I'm so glad you mentioned the word train your audience, Courtney, because we talk about that a lot with our students. And it's such a weird concept. Like, what do you mean train my audience?
Yeah.
Like, they're not a pet, but you do. Absolutely. It's amazing how you can train your audience. And I think one of the biggest things that people will unsubscribe is when you are inconsistent. When they are randomly seeing you in their inbox at just random times, they're either not going to open, which means they're just going to be dead weight, or they're going to unsubscribe. But when you are consistent and they are expecting that, and like Tiffany said, you're really connecting with them, they are loyal. They are going to stick around. So the unsubscribes are okay, but consistency is such a key in retaining that other business word, retention, right?
Yeah.
Retaining, and we like to call it just nurturing our audience.
Yes.
But it's so hard in the early days. We really take to heart those unsubscribes. When we do these conferences, we get a lot of new people, and we lose about half, and we're okay with that, because you know what? Another half stick around and become part of our community and become part of our tribe. But it's okay. We're like, we know, right? We are serving value, and so many people will come back as well. If you continue to offer great things, they'll be like, hey, I once heard about them, and they come back. So such a good topic. All right, let's move on. Michelle asked, let me see, whoever wants to answer this one will be fine. Oh, it just moved. Oh, where'd it go? It jumped around. Okay, Michelle says, I already self-published a book. I didn't do anything. I just put it on Amazon, which we hear a lot. How do I market it now, or is it too late? Why do I have a feeling it's not too late? Who wants to take this one away first?
It's never too late. I'm not going to take that question, but there's so many ways to reboot your marketing for your book. So I'm going to let others jump in, but it's never too late.
Yeah, I agree. I have clients who come to me who published with another company and then want to get some leverage to build their brand, or they want to republish a book. So it's never too late. One of the things you want to do if you are on Amazon is make sure you claim your Amazon author page and utilize that. It's a free marketing tool. A lot of self-published authors don't know about it. They don't utilize it. It helps with your algorithms. It puts all your work in one place. You used to be able to make the URL specific to you. I think Amazon has gotten away from that now. So what I encourage my clients to do is go to Bitly and create a unique URL that maybe is author name, Amazon, as a Bitly link, so that people can go to your page. Because if you're doing an interview and you're saying, I'm on Amazon.com/ABCDQ392 lowercase d, it's not going to work. So if you can't customize your URL, which I don't believe, like I said, you can't do that anymore, then you want to go on and create a bit.ly or a tiny URL and specify the extension so that it as identified to, always thinking about the branding. It's never too late. What was that called, Valerie? URL, bit.ly, bit.ly.
Yeah.
And then tiny.url.
Mindy is behind the scenes. She'll put in the website for bit.ly or tiny URL, but that is great advice, Valerie.
I love that. I'll also add here too is that guess what? Amazon is still like the place where people go to buy their stuff. It's never too late to answer the question. But Amazon, people are buying online these days. They're doing Audible, they're doing audio books and things like that. They're purchasing your book from Amazon. It's a trusted site. So a lot of people, sometimes they'll go to your website, but when you redirect them to Amazon, you're going to get, your sales as a self-publisher, but it's trusted. A lot of people, and you'll find that you'll get more sales, I tend to see, when it's handled through there. You can be a little bit more creative when you do it, when they buy from your website. But again, Amazon is king right now, and it still works perfectly.
Yeah. And I would just add, it is never too late to have a book launch. Like, people don't know when it was released. People don't know when you wrote it. So I would even just start from the beginning, start from sharing, if you're on social media, of the behind the scenes. When did you write it? When did God first give you that? Just start taking them on that journey. Never too late to be able to take people on your journey. You have those mile markers, those stories. And what I always say is just start where you're at. If you're on Facebook, start there. If you're on Instagram, start there. If you are a Bible study leader at your church, start there. If you're a PTA mom, start there. A neighborhood group of women that together, wherever you're at, start there. And it's never too late. Like I said at the beginning, it's a marathon. It's an ongoing experience for you and them. That's the beauty of publishing, is your book will forever be out there if you want it to be. So it is never too late.
Here's a tangible example, if you don't mind, Jenny, of how your book launch is ongoing. So in my case, I've had just really the joy of interviewing twice now on Focus on the Family. Focus on the Family does not interview you until your book has been out at least a year. That's kind of their rhythm. And so typically there's this whole launch phase, and you want to get all your podcast interviews and your radio interviews in. But a program like Focus on the Family that can really move the needle for you, they're not even booking you until months and months later. So there's always an opportunity to refresh your message, to refresh do a new mini launch. Always, as long as you have that book and there are people who have not yet read it, you promote it.
Yeah, we have a student that felt she didn't have the time to do a great launch when she self-published her book. And so at the 1-year anniversary, she did this whole big birthday relaunch of the 1 year of her book, and it did fantastic. So absolutely, you can keep, make a birthday, make any excuse to relaunch it. I want to shift gears. I think Tanuvia, if I'm pronouncing her name right, had a great question. And this is such a roadblock when we are marketing ourselves, marketing our books. But she says, what if the writer's personality makes her feel icky about actively selling her work? Similarly, could you kindly speak to imposter syndrome as an obstacle to marketing? So who would like to speak to that one?
Can I speak into the idea of feeling icky? Because this is a topic I'm really passionate about.
Yeah.
Feeling salesy is icky. Putting yourself out there is icky if you think that you are putting yourself out there. And now I'm going to say something, and I don't want anyone to take it the wrong way. This is not meant to be heretical. But think of your marketing as evangelism. Your marketing is not promoting you. It is sharing the gospel. It is sharing some positive message related to your faith that exists inside of your book. And so you want to affect people. You want to impact people. That's why you wrote the book. It's why you write your blog posts. It's why you speak to groups. And so marketing yourself is not marketing yourself. It's marketing a message God has placed on your heart to share with people, to make an impact on them. If you think of it as evangelism, and I'm not saying you're profiting from the gospel. That is not what I'm saying. That's where people like to go with that statement. And that is not what I mean. Yeah. But if you look at the message that God has laid on your heart as sharing God and not sharing you, then not only should you not feel icky about it, but you should feel really impassioned to go out there and do it well.
I love that. I love that. I want to piggyback off of that if I can say something real quick.
Yeah.
That is so good, Becky. Let me tell you, the self-promotion, we get it. God does not want us to do self-promotion. However, you are the author, you are the vessel, the messenger that God is using for this day and this hour. And so write and be used by him, but people have to know that you are that person. It's the same thing. We know Paul, we know Peter, we know Jesus, right? We know their name, just like Priscilla Shire and Joyce Meyer. We know their names. Why? Because God has allowed us to see that. But hey, one thing God had to tell me, because I was thinking one day, I was like, oh Lord, I'm driving home and I'm saying, am I promoting too much? Am I doing this? And the Lord quickened me. He's like, he told me, he said, the message is behind the marketing. And so what that means is, as I promote it, as I put it out there, it's not promoting me so much, but it's promoting the message. There's something that God has given me to share. It's something that God has given you to share. And so you have to market it so that people can get the message. So if you don't market, it's out of sight, out of mind. Nobody knows that you even exist.
Yes. And you don't put your light under a bowl, right? You shine your light for all to see. And that in your case, if you are called to be a writer, if you're called to write books and blog posts, whatever, then you got to lift the lid off the light by sharing what you do.
Yes.
It's just how it is. And yes, it feels icky, but if we remember, it's not about us. It's about the Lord. It's the same scary thing. You wouldn't, a lot of us feel scared going door to door for evangelism, or even just talking to our best friend who we really want to know the Lord and doesn't yet.
Yes.
In which case, would they really be your best friend? I don't know. Anyway, the whole point being, it's the same type of scary thing. When you're sharing something you're afraid will offend people. But the gospel offends people, and that has to be okay.
Yeah.
Tiffany,
I just want to add to that more on the practical side.
Yeah.
I am an introvert. Nobody believes me, but that's my truth. And as an introvert, it becomes difficult to be able to speak before people. So something you might want to do is practice what you want to say. I actually have acronyms in my phone that help me have small talk, if you will, with complete strangers, so that I am more comfortable with conveying my message. Because people will support those they know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
And if they don't get to know you, like you, or trust you, you can't communicate your message to them effectively. Another thing I want to say is that we as women, at least I can only speak for me as a chocolate woman, we were taught to be humble and submissive and keep on the low. We don't brag about ourselves. We don't boast about ourselves. I worked in engineering. I worked in a white male dominated field. And I had to become very vocal about what I was doing because they wanted to skate over it. So you have to become that mouthpiece. Let God use you in a way that communicates the message that he's given to you. Because even if you stutter like Moses, he's got a solution even for that. So you have to position yourself in such a way that you trust him first. Oftentimes it's fear. And fear and faith can't operate in the same place. So you have to decide what your message is. Trust God in helping you deliver that message, and then going forth and spreading the message.
Love it. Tiffany, can you talk about imposter syndrome?
So I think Valerie hit a lot on the heart of us thinking that we're pretending to be something we're not, or us thinking that we're not really who God has called and created us to do. We're not really the mask that we're wearing. And like Valerie encouraged us, God doesn't make mistakes.
Right.
And I think in this conversation, as we're talking about getting that message out there, we have to go back to our why. And our why is what has to drive the writing of our book. Our why has to drive us being okay with putting our face out there, because at the end of the day, God made us to be relational. And people don't connect with a book cover.
Right.
Although we try really hard to make connected book covers, people connect with people.
Yes.
People connect with people. And that's why you need to put yourself out there, whether you're an introvert, an extrovert, an ambivert, or whatever it might be, is that people connect with people because there are your people out there. There are other introverts out there. And so you are who God has made you to be. You have a message that only you can bring. You have an experience only you can bring. And so imposter syndrome is a lie. Feeling like you're an imposter is a lie from the pit.
Right. Yeah.
And all that's trying to do is to keep you from showing up to opening up and to being vulnerable and writing. from those scars, not wounds,
Yeah.
but writing
Mm.
from that scar, that healed place, so that you can
Yeah.
continue to show up and share the gospel however God has allowed you to share it.
I got goosies. Yes.
I did too. That is so good. Someone said I was just in church for a minute there. I love it. I love it. That was such rich truth. We're going to shift gears. We're going to kind of go back to the practical. Such good conversation. All right. Recommendations. This is whoever wants to take this question. It is Paulette asked, what are your recommendations for pre-sales? We see, in the traditional publishing world, this is such a big thing, right? The whole pre-launch, pre-sales, they've really got to hit some numbers. We can talk about that with traditional publishing, but with self-publishing as well. So let's talk about recommendations for that pre-sale phase.
Mm-hmm.
Should we start by explaining why you would want pre-sales? Does anybody want to take that? Why do pre-sales matter according to the Amazon machine, right?
Yeah.
They help boost your rankings and so forth. I mean, any one of you want to take that? I've been through that from the traditional publishing standpoint, which is that pre-sales essentially will raise your rankings in Amazon, which then notifies Amazon to do more pitching of your book. And so pre-sales can just position you for a better launch of success. But I don't necessarily look at them as a holy grail either. So I'll let somebody step in and talk about why they're valuable, what they mean, why would we even want pre-sales? So does anybody have words on that?
So what I do with my clients, again, I publish books for people. So I'm what you will call a book producer. They hire me to make sure that their books debut engineered and professionally designed to get paid speaking engagements, media attention, and book sales. With that incorporates training on their pre-launch campaign, which includes, virtual / live, depending upon what's happening with the pandemic, but also a push towards Amazon ranking and sales. For one, if you are strategic in how you position your pre-sales on Amazon, you can actually debut as a bestseller. Whether you sell 1 or 100 copies, if your book is positioned in the correct category. Now, there are some things people try to do to sneak around, but since we operate in integrity, we're going to put our book in the category it belongs in and be a bestseller in the right category. Integrity to the saints, integrity. But
100%.
with that, you can then debut as a bestseller. Once you hit a bestsellers list, Amazon or any other, you are a bestseller forever. So now you have bragging rights going forward that I'm an Amazon bestseller. What I tell my clients to do is, we pick a day, we pick an hour, and we push for the pre-sales with ebooks and pre-orders, but specifically people to buy on that day at a specific time, and then we watch the clock. Amazon updates the rankings every hour. So if you're watching it hourly, you can see as you're climbing up the charts. When you hit the top 100, screenshot it. As the young people say, I need receipts. And the higher you go, screenshot. So one of my books hit number 1, and I didn't even know it hit number 1. I found out after the fact. By the time I found that it was at 38, I was mad. I got a picture at 38. I didn't get a picture at 1.
You missed the number 1.
It's a strategic process. It's a lot of work. So if you're not proficient in all these things, instead of becoming overwhelmed and frustrated, connect with people who can do what you need to have done. You may need a social media strategist. You may need a brand marketing expert. You may need somebody to host your website. You may need somebody to help you find interviews. You may need people in these different niches who are proficient in helping you get the leverage and the credibility and the exposure that you need. But yes, you have to be on Amazon. Yes, I encourage you to push for an Amazon pre-sale, pre-order launch, and then manage it. And the other thing let me say this real quick about Amazon, is you want people to actually buy from Amazon at your initial launch so that then they give reviews. You have verified reviews. Amazon is getting real particular about people being able to post arbitrary reviews. So if you want verified reviews, you need to get people to buy from Amazon and then make the ask, will you write a review?
Exactly.
You help build your momentum and get that thing going, because the more reviews you have, the more Amazon will work on your behalf. So there's a lot of strategies. What I tell my clients is after that initial push, trying to hit the bestsellers list or getting reviews, you send people to your website to buy your book, because then Amazon doesn't get a piece of your sales. Initially, Amazon gets, for print books, anywhere from 50 to 55% is their take on it. Ebooks, they take 30% or they take 70%. So you want to push people to your website so that you get more money, You connect to them directly by getting emails. They get an autographed copy. And if it's a children's book, back to that again, your offset printer offers better quality books, and they're a lot less expensive than if you set your book up for automatic fulfillment through some of the different outlets. I know I said a lot.
That's good stuff.
It was good stuff. Courtney,
so
do you
much.
have something you want to share?
Yeah, there's so much in that. So you hit on the reviews as well. That is big because people want to know how is it good? Is it good? And unfortunately, people look at reviews. They do. So it's important. So pre-sale is important because you can actually get your reviews in there. So that way, when people are thinking about it, they can do it. Another thing too is pre-sales from the practical side is that people like sales. And so they can get it ahead of time. They don't have to pay the full price at that moment. There's holiday time coming right now. Now is the time to start putting that stuff out there right now. If you have a book, people like sales. And so pre-sales, you get a chance to start making some money from the work that you've done ahead of time. And then of course you get the book out when it's time to get it out. But reviews is a big thing. And so that's what I would say, 100% piggyback off of that.
That is good stuff. Okay, let's move on to a question from Nancy about niche topics. So she says, my targeted readers are sexual abuse victims. How do I get my book into their hands? But I want to talk about just narrow niches, even though I don't know. I don't think sexual abuse victims is that narrow of a niche. I actually think it's quite big. She doesn't have a platform. She has this narrow niche. But what are your thoughts on that?
On niche platforms in general, I think they're smart because you know exactly who your target market is. And it actually makes it easier for you in many ways to find those people. Another area where I like to specialize is in Facebook and Instagram ads. And if you ever choose to go that route, the better you can narrow the interests or the demographics of your audience based on they're not going to tell you what their, necessarily their personal experiences have been, but based on the other types of organizations they follow, based on the other types of books that they buy, that kind of a thing. The more information you have about your audience, the better able you are to target them. And also, I think it's important to be able to serve people where they are. So if you have a real niche audience, that means that you're just better poised to serve an actual problem that exists in their life. And that's what I always recommend for any product, whether it's a book or an online course, is to make sure you're serving an actual problem these people have. And in a niche audience, you are more tuned into what their problems are and how you can help solve them with your material.
I agree.
How do you get them into your hands? So I looking that up. Yep, go ahead.
A lot of people shoot for the I want to be a little fish in the big pond syndrome as opposed to the big fish in the little pond.
Yep.
You want to be the big fish in the little pond and not the little fish in the ocean because you have more impact. You can connect directly with the people whom you need to serve. I ask people all the time, well, who wants to buy your book? Now, I'm going to ask the lady collectively, what do most people tell you when you ask them who wants their book or who's their audience for their book? What do they typically tell you?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Yep, everybody.
Yeah. I hear that all the time, and I'm prepared for it when they say that because I know it's coming. But that's not the truth. Everybody doesn't want your book. Everybody, like we said before, everybody is not your ideal reader. Everybody is not interested in your message. Everybody can't deal with your message. Everybody can't go where God is taking you. So you have to be clear and understand that not everybody is your audience. Find your niche. If you have a niche, that's great. Operate in your niche. Become the expert in your niche. Become that go-to person so that people will refer you and say, oh, you have an issue with this? You need to talk to her because she does blah, blah, blah. And they become to know you. It's part of your branding. So stick to your niche and stay focused and intentional. And for the young lady who talked about sexual abuse, I have a friend who was just launched her second anthology called Hush, which is about sexual childhood trauma and sexual molestation. So reach out to me and I'll connect you with her, and maybe you guys can connect on some joint collaboration on a virtual book tour or, in live in-person speaking engagements. You just never know when you do a collaboration. It's a great way, niche or otherwise, to expand your message.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would also say bring them a little bit closer. And what I mean by that is bring them into a group. Facebook groups are big right now. Like find that niche audience and bring them into the group. And guess what? When you do have a book or a resource or a course or anything that you have available that ties into your writing, you can always pitch to a warm market. That's a warm market for you. Those are people who are they already know, like, and trust you. They already like your content. You can talk to them directly. You can bring on guests who are talking about that particular area as well. And so groups are really, really good. So I would just bring them in a little bit closer. And then that way, like I said, when you have more that you're offering, they're already there to support you. The other part is to be a part of events that are in that niche as well. Like be a speaker for those events, get on podcasts for that particular niche area, and then really be focused, like my sister was saying, with your branding. That way, when people go to social media, they go to Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, it's like they're seeing the same thing. They're seeing your niche over and over again. So it's super clear. Your messaging is super, super clear, and they know what to book you for. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, having a narrow niche is a good thing, actually.
Yeah.
It really helps you stay focused and find your people faster.
Yeah, I would just add one thing if I could. I would go on to Instagram and I would search different hashtags in that niche.
Yeah.
Sexual abuse survivor, sexual trauma, and start following that tag. You can actually, on Instagram, instead of following just people, you can follow a tag, and then in your feed will come all the posts that are associated with that tag. And so you can see what's out there. You can see what's being posted. You can see some people that you might want to collaborate with or consider how you want to get your message out there. But I think that's a great way, especially as you're trying to figure out niches, is to just go, because Instagram's so big on hashtags, is to be able to get on there and take a look at what's out there already for those different hashtags.
Definitely.
We had a student that was, I think, in the same, they were also writing about sexual abuse. And a thought that we had, if you already have a book out and you want to increase sales, is to get a sponsor for that book, right? Maybe get a church or someone to buy 20 books and then donate those books to a domestic abuse shelter, right? So you sell some books, you give a little bit of a discount, like kind of like a group rate, and then you're also able to really bless the person that needs it most. So that was great advice for someone that was writing in a similar field. Tiffany, I think this question would be great for you, and others can find it as well. But Christy said, I feel I'm being led to enhance my writing through blogging before putting my first book together, which is a great idea. Can I balance blogging and writing a book? So I think she said, how can I balance blogging and writing a book?
Well, if you're strategically going to take that on, because it's like a first step, a lot of books come from blogs. So I wouldn't consider it wasted or an either or. I would say, let's consider those drafts. Let's consider those a 4-part series on, let's say one of your chapters is going to be on fear. Let's do a 4-part blog series on fear. And then eventually you can put that together and there's your chapter 1. So I wouldn't don't look at it as an either or. I would say, let's look at that as your drafts for your book, and those being chunks that you can get out and see what's resonating people. So this is your way to test what you're writing and to get in your flow and to see what is really resonating with people.
Yes. And do not think of that as giving away your book for free, because what you're actually doing is, just like Tiffany said, you're testing your content. You're figuring out what resonates with people. These are like a beta group for your book. And by the time you've packaged that book, first of all, they're going to forget what they read on your blog. And secondly, you are delivering it now in a convenient package for these people, these customers, these readers have already come to love you. And this is the same. I feel the same way about digital products. You can repurpose so much of the content you've already created to develop this new thing that now you can sell. And what you're doing is providing a greater service to your followers, your audience, your customers, because you're providing it in a format that is convenient and comprehensive for them. And it becomes the kind of thing they keep on a shelf and they refer to again and again, versus a blog, which is, they're going to read it, they're going to enjoy it, they're going to give you feedback, but they don't have that collective result of what they have learned from you. And that's what your book can provide for them.
Absolutely. And the other part of
way.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Just one
Okay.
thing, the other part about doing a blog is that's when you'll start to get your email list
Mhm.
because people will subscribe to your blog.
Yes.
And I
Bloggers.
was going to say the best way, the initial question was, how do I balance blog writing and book writing? I think the best way to do that is schedule the time and be intentional and deliberate. I'm going to write the blog post Saturday from 9 to 12, and you focus on the blog post during that time. And on Sunday or Tuesday or whatever day, I'm going to write my book. So you have to be very intentional
Mhm.
and deliberate about when you're going to write and what you're going to write about. Because James 1:8 says a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways.
That's
If you're
right.
trying to write the book and write the blog at the same time, you're going to cause confusion and disruption. That's the trick of the enemy. So be very clear, be very focused, and be very intentional about when you're going to write and what you're going to write.
And I would say it actually works hand in hand. I'm piggybacking off all of y'all. All this is good stuff because blogging, that's my jam, y'all. I love blogging. All right. And so I feel like blogging, they're an already made audience once again. So when the book comes out, and here's the thing, I always incorporate my books at the bottom of my blogs. So I get sales overnight. When I'm sleeping, I wake up with sales because my book is in every single one of my blog posts. And so, so that's a great way to actually market your book in your blog posts, in your signature, in your email signature, and things like that. And then periodically put it out there on social media. But blogging is a way, I want to say this too, blogging is a way to consistently pour into your audience as an author. And blogging can actually open up the doors for speaking as well. I've gotten several speaking engagements because of blogs, because of topics that I've written on. And so guess what? When I get to the speaking engagement, guess what else I have? I have a table with books that I can sell. So that's a great win and an advantage. So I think it works hand in hand. You can totally balance it out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love it. All right, we've gotten several just questions on the practical side. What is your favorite? And if everybody can answer, including us, me. What's your favorite email management? Do you have a favorite for beginners? I know I do. What are you currently using? Go ahead and. So email management software.
So I use Constant Contact, but I'm definitely considering revisiting it. But because I'm a creature of habit and I've been with that platform for 10 plus years, I'm having a hard time making the shift. I know that there are more viable options and less expensive options, but I use Constant Contact as my email capture service.
I talk a lot to my clients about tech stacks, and there is a lot of, so I'll tell you for beginners, I recommend MailChimp because it has a good free program. Personally, I used MailChimp and then I upgraded. I look at it as an upgrade to ConvertKit because so much of what I'm doing is tied to sales funnels. Flowdesk is really appealing to people right now because they're just about to cut off their special $19 a month for life initial promo. And a lot of people have gone crazy about Flowdesk because it has pretty templates and it's easy to use, but it does not integrate well with sales funnels. So if your hope eventually is to create online sales, regular digital marketing for residual income, I don't know that I would highly recommend Flowdesk. But I also, like you were saying, Valerie, I would need to surgically remove myself from ConvertKit at this point. It's so my tags and my series and my sales funnels. But I have since moved to an all-in-one tool called Kajabi, and Kajabi has an email function built in, which probably can meet my needs. But I stick with ConvertKit just because the whole idea of having to remove myself from it and convert over to Kajabi gives me stomach aches. So I just pay and I continue to use ConvertKit, and it integrates beautifully into Kajabi.
I'm with MailChimp. However, I am so ready to just run. I am ready. I am so ready. You know, with publishers, open rates is a big deal. And I've found that I hear a lot about ConvertKit, that open rates are better, but I want to go with Kajabi because Kajabi, I can do more. I can do courses, I can sell my stuff, I can have it on their platform as well as my own. I can actually have my email list. I hear open rates are great, all those things. So I can host streaming, live conferences, all those different types of things. So I can do a lot more with Kajabi. So just start thinking about platforms that are going to give you the best for your buck, especially in today's culture with all the social media and the streaming, live streaming and things like that. So that's what I would say. Kajabi is my go-to coming up next.
Oh, I love it. And Courtney, I'm going to beg you to sign up for Kajabi under my affiliate link. You know that, right?
Send it to me.
I will
Send it to me.
That's right.
Send it my way, sister.
Yeah, I am still using the same platform that I've used from the beginning. It's a beginning email system. I use Aweber. It's an easy, user-friendly beginning, and I'm happy with it. And I like easy and just keep going. So where I'm at, I'm going to stay with it until I need to change.
Yeah.
I love it. So this is what we recommend to our students. For those that are just starting off that really want the free plan or the very inexpensive plan, I do really like MailChimp, like Becky said, or MailerLite. I have been impressed with MailerLite recently. They have some great add-ons. But then, and this is going to be subjective to everyone, I completely agree. I don't think MailChimp or MailerLite are great for when you really start growing your email list. You don't want to stay there forever. So I like to tell people at the 1,000 mark is when you want to make that transition, because it does get way harder as you grow that email list. We have always been with ConvertKit. We would have to surgically remove ourselves from ConvertKit again, so we are never leaving. Kajabi is amazing, but Kajabi is for when you are ready and you're going to be doing multiple things.
Yes.
Online courses in particular, Kajabi is dynamite at online courses. But if you have simpler products, you don't necessarily need it yet.
Yeah.
Yep. And ConvertKit actually has been really impressing me. You can now sell through ConvertKit. And they've added kind of a e-commerce page. So they're doing really great. But I do know that if you are starting off and you've got 0 people, you probably don't need them yet. There are some great tools out there. So those are my thoughts. But there was a follow-up question that I thought was good. Do you need to start with a website, or can you just start with an email list? What are your thoughts?
That's loaded.
That is loaded.
Very.
What were you saying, Courtney?
I'm a fan of websites. And the reason why, for all the things that we do, especially as authors, because books lead to more opportunities. And so a lot of speaking hosts, when you're getting conferences and things like that, they're going to go to your website and they're going to go look at everything. And so it's just like when you go to a restaurant, is how I like to describe it to my clients is, when they get to your website, it's like you're presenting a menu. And so when they get there, they're going to look at that menu and see what they need and what they want to feast on and what they need when they get there. And so whether that's for your clientele, whether that's for your readers, whether that's for event hosts, when they get to that website, you have so much more to offer them than just a sales page. Because once the sale is over, the sales page goes away, but your website is still there. So I'm a huge fan of websites still. And that's where you can actually have your subscription box on there too. I'm sorry, on your website.
I'm responding to a question actually Haley just asked. As a podcaster, is Kajabi good for her? Kajabi actually just launched a podcast function. So I'm putting that in the chat, which is very interesting and helpful, and a coaching function. So back to the idea of a website, I think of it as we talked earlier about your personal brand and how you are promoting Jesus through your personal brand. And your website is the hub of your brand. It's where people, like Courtney said, it's where they go to find out who you are, what you're about, what other offerings you have. And you may think you're just starting out now with some blog posts or with some social media content, but eventually this is going to grow into the picture of who you are and what you have to offer people, and your offerings will grow as your career grows. So I do think it's important to have a website, and it can be simple. It doesn't have to be complex, but a website is your online presence. It is an online hub of your business. And as an author, if you've been called to be an author, then you do run a business. There is an entire industry built around the idea of writing and selling books. And so you can look at yourself as being an online business owner, and a website is the very natural first step. Like I said, it doesn't have to be complicated, but I do think it's important to have that online presence. This is your hub. This is where you live and people find you online.
Right.
I just want to clarify. I am not a webmaster. I have a website. It's in WordPress, and I'm wise enough to go in and make pages and add pages and take things out. I go in today because I got notification that something I wanted to do I couldn't do because my website plugins weren't updated. So what do I do? I updated them. Now my website is a hot mess. So when you go to penofthewriter.com, just know that there's all kind of HTML code all kind of stuff posted out there. It's still live, but there's extra
Yeah.
stuff on there that wasn't there this morning. I just want to make that clear. Make sure you
Wow.
hire someone who is proficient in designing, developing, and if you can't maintain it, maintaining websites, because that's a whole nother industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep, yep.
I agree. And I just want to share, I've always loved sharing. I agree with all of you. I think websites are important, but I want to encourage those that maybe don't have a website, because I think sometimes we think the word website and we think, oh my goodness, 10 pages. It needs to be all fancy. It needs to look like, right, imposter syndrome, like XYZ person. A website can be 1 or 2 pages and really serve a great website. And I always love sharing, you know, a lot of people, right, they see Flourish or they see all of us and they see, oh my goodness, they got it, all these things. But guys, we started Flourish with no website by asking 100 friends and family to do an email series. And those emails acted as blog posts. We would put our whole blog post in an email. And that's how, and out of the 100, 30 said yes. And that is how Flourish was born. And then we got the website. So don't let not having a website stop you from getting your message out. And the websites are necessary and they've got to come, but you can
eventually
send emails out that look like website posts.
Right. But that's a really great point, Jenny. Eventually you knew you needed a website.
Yeah.
But you didn't need it that first week when you were just testing the waters. And
we did a little 4-week series called Declare, and that was our website. We would send 2 emails out a week, and that's how it all started. So we can get so much of our message out by email. All right, I want to end. We're going to wrap up here. But this question, it's my biggest pet peeve question, quite honestly, but it trips so many writers up. And it's the dreaded number list. How big should my social media be? How big should my email list be? And I think there's so much insecurity. There's so much misinformation out there about numbers. So let's talk about numbers.
Do we have to?
I didn't want to, but it's such an important question, because I have a feeling we're going to encourage many.
It is.
Yes. Yeah. Can I if we're talking about encouragement, can I tell you that I got my first traditional publishing contract with less than 1,000 Facebook followers? So be encouraged. This was in a different season. This was, things since the pandemic have changed in the publishing industry. So if you're looking at, do I have enough people to write a book? If I could get a traditional publishing contract with less than 1,000 followers, don't feel like you need to have a huge number before you can serve people with your message. And this is one thing, this is the only thing that I'll say about this. And I'm sorry, my dog is in the background. Can you all hear him? He's very enthusiastic.
It's okay. It's okay.
This is real life. I work from home. So and this came from Emily Freeman, who is a popular author, and she's someone that I admire. Years ago, before her first book was out, I was at a writer's conference and she was speaking, and she said something that I thought was brilliant, and it stuck with me ever since. She said, if you feel down on yourself because your numbers aren't high enough, you don't have enough social media followers, you don't have enough people on your email list, step back a second and think, if you were to step in front of a classroom of 30 people, and you were to give a presentation to those 30 people, wouldn't you feel honored to do that? Wouldn't you even feel a little bit nervous that you had to deliver a message to these people? You would take that very seriously. So why then is a list of 30 email subscribers or 30 Facebook followers not enough? Why is that something to disdain? When in reality, these are 30 people whose lives you can speak into, who have invited you to speak into their lives. So the numbers don't matter as far as how you can impact people and whether or not it's worth it to impact people. And I always like to keep this one thought in mind. I am always writing for an audience of 1, for God first. And then he always blesses me with some sort of response from even just one person, whether it's to a blog post or a book. And if one person has responded and said, this really impacted me today, I really needed to hear this today, thank you for your encouragement, I feel like you were in my house today, I say, thank you, Jesus, I just did the job you asked me to do. And I don't care about the other thousands of people, if they liked it or not. I mean, I care, obviously. I mean, we serve people as a whole, but each one of them is important. And if
Yes.
one person came back to me and said, this impacted me, thank you, God, I've done my job.
Yes. Amen. Amen. I want to say amen to that 100%. I will say this, to some people, it matters for numbers, depending on, it just depends for some. But if it depends for publishers, your email list matters because they feel like, and Becky, you can probably, attest to this, but they equate that to more sales because those people are closer. They're connected to you. And so they're a little bit closer. They're not so much worrying that much about your social media numbers as much anymore. It's more about the email list because so much is going on with social media. And so your focus, I'm just going to speak to the traditional publishing side for this moment, is email lists. Get the email list up. That's going to be my suggestion to you. I wish I would have known some of that a little bit more. I do have good numbers, but they want some numbers. Okay. The bigger the publisher, the bigger the numbers. There are publishers that will give you a chance, and nothing beats God's favor. Amen. I'm going to put that out there.
Amen.
But as far as the self-publishing side, don't get caught up in all that. Just do what God's calling you to do. Write the book, write the blog, get your words out there, and just connect with as many people as you possibly can. Because the biggest thing is, like Tiffany was saying earlier, is your why. Always go back to, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Is it because of the numbers, or is it because of the message? And so just focus on the message, and guess what? The people will come. And the main thing that people are looking at, whether they're hosts for events or whether they're publishers, is engagement. Is talk to your people, because when you talk to your people, those are real people that are on social media, real people that are behind those email lists. So talk to your people, because those are your buyers, and those are your people are going to continue to come back for more.
So,
Valerie, what are your
Jenny,
thoughts on numbers?
I was going to say, when you mentioned numbers, the first thing that came to my mind is, first, we use numbers to compare. We want to see how we're doing in comparison to someone else. But their process to publishing and their path to publishing may not be the same as yours. So don't use numbers to compare. Then I thought about the two people in the Bible that came to mind quickly was Gideon, who started out with tens of thousands and God whittled him down to 300. And then David, who was cursed and penalized for numbering his army, because now it's taken out, it's saying, I got 1,000 followers. That means I'm doing this. No, you got to give this to the Lord and let him do what he's going to do. The other thing is, if you look at, I need 1,000 people because I only have a $15 product, you're going to have a hard time hitting 6 and 7 figures. If you position yourself where you have a broader offering, where you're offering courses and speaking engagements and packaging, mentoring, publishing, all those other things, which is what I do. I don't make my living from selling my books. I published 10 books of my own, and like I said, 140 authors. My income, my livelihood comes from publishing other people and then mentoring them on how to do the same thing themselves. And so don't focus on trying to get 1,000 people to buy a $15 book. Focus on getting 100 people, and you have this $1,000 package that they would invest in, because they know, like, and trust you, and they want to be a part of what you're doing. They believe in what you're doing, and you're operating in integrity and excellence.
Do you want to add anything, Tiffany?
Yes, I would say small and engaged audience is better than big and disengaged. So it's more important how engaged your people are. And I always go back to the parable of the talents. Some of us, God right now is entrusted with 1, 2, or 5 talents. But what did he say? He said to use what we have. And too often we're focusing on what we don't have, trying to get more, instead of focusing on the people we do have and loving and nurturing and pouring into the ones we do have. So small and engaged platforms are always better than big and disengaged.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. And something that I want to add to that is, let's get in the practice. I want everyone here, if you've got an email list, really the number to me doesn't matter. Yes, it matters in some instances, but what is going to matter is your open rates and your click rates. Those percentages are your real number.
Right.
It's not the number that says total subscribers. It's much lower than that. So we got into the habit and practice of really studying our open rate and our click rates and understanding what is healthy, what is not healthy. When do you have to trim your list? We talked about unsubscribers, but there are times you got to kick people out, right? So it's really those percentages. That is what you want engagement. You really don't want a big list, because then you're going to pay for it, first of all. And you know what? That publisher, if oh, you come to the publisher, I've got 50,000 people, but you sell to 500, that publisher is going to be like, what's going on?
That's right.
That
Exactly.
You have 50,000 people. You know what? I have a 1%. I have a 1% open rate.
That open rate.
Well, no, actually, a 1% open rate isn't bad. I have that 1% click rate is not too shabby, but you definitely don't want a 1% open rate because that's nobody's connecting with you. So that's the number we need to be focused on, ladies.
The open rates
is those open rates, and then those click rates, right? Are we training them correctly to take action when we call them to something? That's why it's called a call to action. Are they actually going to follow through? We have a freebie. Okay, what's the percentage of people that are going to go over to get that freebie
and grab it? That
starts to really give you some really good data. And actually, I would love to have a whole nother conversation on data because I actually love the numbers and I love the data behind marketing and even the psychology behind marketing. But we're running out of time. So I want each of you to put your contact information in the chat. I know a couple of you did, but put it again. And then can you have a closing thought for everyone with regards to this topic? What's on your heart to tell? I know we've shared a lot, but if there's anything you haven't shared about marketing, now's your time to share it.
Can I just, but I'm trying to type and talk. I just want to go back. I know we've done with the website, but I want to go back to that and encourage people that when you do go get your URL, I recommend GoDaddy.com. There are a lot of websites out there that will overcharge. GoDaddy has people who speak American English. You need help with that resources and technology and all that other stuff. What I tell my clients to do is, even if you're not ready to get your website, go buy the domain name now. You can buy your name, buy the book title if you have that, and then the name of your business. And that'll cost you maybe $10 a year to get all those three of those domains.com. Then when you're ready to launch your website, you can do one website and do landing pages for the other domains that you purchased using what's called a domain forward. That's just a little something I share with my clients. That way, when you're talking about your book, you can say thingsicanbe.com, still on my main website, but it's specifically to my book page. Okay. Can I say my favorite marketing tool? I know that wasn't your question. Was that kind of?
No. This is like, whatever you want to share.
My favorite marketing tool for this introvert is speaking engagements.
Okay.
Because although I'm an introvert, I am an ambivert, more so, as Tiffany said, because I have the ability to shapeshift, if you will, and become this on stage person. But when I'm in their presence and they get my energy and I can answer questions and engage and connect and interact with people, they are more inclined then to visit me at my product table. So I've gone to events where they paid minimal speaking fee, but I left out with thousands in book sales and projects and new clients.
That's right.
So speaking engagements are in person. I prefer in-person. Speaking engagements are my favorite marketing tool. Then I go home for a couple of days and decompress.
Yeah, I would too.
I would say for marketing wise, is make sure that you pay attention to the people that you like out there, that you're seeing content that you say, oh, I like that. I think that's good, and make it your own. But show up. Continue to show up out there because, like Tiffany was saying, people connect with people. And so visibility marketing is going to be huge because that's going to help open doors for people to buy your book, but also to connect with you for other projects, for podcasts and those speaking engagements. And then I do want to provide a resource that I think is great, and it's called Author Lab Pro. And, you see those book mock-ups out there. They have a whole system where you can get like 100 mock-ups and you can create those on your own. I think you can pay like $30-something a month for that. But it's just basically like a vault, a way that you can market your books. And so when you see all that stuff with people listening to it on audio, or they have like a book in all these different looks and stuff like that, Author Lab Pro is really good.com.
And if you can put that website in the chat, that'd be awesome. Tiffany, do you have some parting thoughts?
Yes, I would just say, I know we touched on it a couple different places, but guest podcasting is free. It's easy. If you can get on here with a camera and a video, you can be a guest on a podcast. As you're going through writing, it's really easy to pull out 3 topics, 3 chapters, and create 3 podcast pitches of 3 topics from your book that you want to speak on as guests on other people's podcasts. There's over 2 million podcasts out there, and most of them use guests. So it's a great way to get out there, great way to practice your message. And stats show that over 60% of people who listen to podcasts have made purchases. So it's higher than ads and commercials on TV. So I would say try guest podcasting, and I have some great resources in my shop for that.
And someone I know, speaking of, AKA Tiffany, has a great resource on guest podcasting, very affordable e-course. So she put her website on there if you're interested in guest podcasting. Becky.
So my best advice is to choose a marketing strategy that is life-giving to you. There are so many ways that you can market your book. Yeah. We've talked about so many of them here. Podcast interviews and social media, email list, guest blog posts. There's so many strategies that you can use. Start with one. Just start with one. If you're feeling overwhelmed at this conversation or overwhelmed at the idea of marketing your book, just make that first step. Choose a marketing strategy that is life-giving to you, that sounds like fun to you, and then start there and gain some traction from it. And then you can add some more strategies. But please don't feel like you have to do all the things all at once, especially not without hiring some help. So do something that is life-giving to you and do that, and just get out there and do it and gain some traction.
Yeah.
I love it. Ladies, this was such a fantastic conversation, which I don't know why we haven't done these panels before, quite honestly, but now I'm like, we need to do them more often. This was such a great way of bringing in so many different thoughts and topics and discussions and just expertise in different areas. So I really appreciate each of you. Thank you for being a part, and thank you for loving on Flourish Writers and being so supportive of us and of writers. You're passionate about writers. That's why we love, Mindy and I love you. You're passionate about writers. And thank you all for watching. Thank you for being a part of this virtual retreat. If you haven't noticed, we do them a lot because we love connecting with you, but we love bringing in others that have a passion about what they are working on or what they're passionate about to share it. They have a message and they want to get it out. So we love gathering those men and women. So again, thank you for being a part of this retreat. If you need to watch those replays, they're going to be available until 8 p.m. Friday, November 5th. And until then, right, we will catch you at the next retreat, definitely next year. So again, thank you for being a part. Have a great afternoon, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.